Hello everyone, I'm Khushbu Singh, third year Integrated Physics, IIT Roorkee. So, as guided by my course coordinator, Mr. Mayank Goswami, I'm here for a presentation on the programming model of the 8085 microprocessor. So, starting off, what actually is a model? So, model of a real object can be said as a conceptual representation of it in a way like a textual description or a drawing or anything like that. Similarly, a microprocessor can be represented by two models. The first one being the hardware model, which describes the physical appearance of the 8085 microprocessor, and the other is a programming model. Now for a brief description of the hardware model. So a simple hardware model of a microprocessor in a microprocessor based system can be represented by three components. First, the arithmetical and logical unit. Second is the memory, and third is the control unit. Okay, and we'll have input and output devices and system buses to connect all of these. Okay, so for the initial start also, we have three types of buses: address bus, data bus, and control buses. So the address buses are 16 in number and are unidirectional, whereas the data buses are 8 in number and are bidirectional. And we have control buses which have not a specified or dedicated lines or buses specified that we'll have such number, but they take up buses or lines from the address bus or the data bus. Okay, so now moving on, what we'll have is a programming model brief introduction. So definition, and then we'll move on to the components and describe each functionality one by one. So what you see on the screen is the basic layout of the programming model of the 8085 microprocessor. Now, what are the components? So the programming model, at first what we want to know is it does not include the structure of the 8085 microprocessor, or does not give us any information about its structure. But it is very critical in writing the assembly language programs. Now, the model includes 6 general purpose registers, which are named as B, C, D, E, H, L, an accumulator in the ALU, flag register, stack pointer, and the program counter. Now, the accumulator is of 8-bit data. The flag register is also an 8-bit register. Stack pointer and the program counter are 16-bit data each. Now we have also, as in the figure, 16 address lines, which are unidirectional, and 8 data buses, which are bidirectional in nature. Now, one by one, we'll be discussing each of the components of the programming model and its functionality. And if necessary, we'll have a problem being taken up and programs being discussed. So now at first is the register. So the 8085 microprocessor's programming model gives us an idea of 6 general purpose registers, which are 8-bit of data each. Now they are named as B, C, D, E, H, and L. They are used for storage of some instructions being executed in the memory, and or storage of data or something. So these are actually used by programmers to copy data by using the data copy instructions, which can be MVI or MOV and etc. Now, one thing to be noticed at is that each of the registers in the pack like B, C, D, E, and HL all have 8-bit of data capacity. Now, some instructions such as LXI or LDA requires 16-bit of data storage. So what we do is we have register pair combinations present in here. So the register pair combinations are DC, DE, and HL, okay, to perform the 16-bit operations. Now we move on to the accumulator. So the accumulator is a special purpose register, which is a 8-bit register in storage capacity, and it's a part of the arithmetical and logical unit. Now this register is used to store 8-bit data and also to perform arithmetical and logical operations such as addition, subtraction, or comparison, you can say. Now, one thing that is important is that the result of an operation is stored in the accumulator itself. And for like, if we require the data for further execution or something, then we'll need to transfer the components or copy the components or the data from the accumulator to the specified register or the memory location for further processing or the execution accordingly. Okay. Now, and it is also identified as register A in the programming module. Now, moving on, we come to flag registers. Now, the ALU includes 5 flip-flops, which are set or reset after an operation according to the conditions of the result in the accumulator and the other registers. So it is an 8-bit register, like not 8-bit register actually, but it is defined by the bits in the 8-bit register, okay, the result in the accumulator or any other register. So we have 5 types of flag register. First is the 0 flag register, second is the carry flag register, third is the sign flag register, fourth is the parity, and fifth is the auxiliary carry register. Now we'll discuss all of the each flag register's purpose and its condition of being set or reset. So starting off from the 0 flag register. Okay, before it, what we can see on the screen is the bitwise position that is responsible for set or reset of each of the flag register. Okay, so starting off from the 0 flag register. So the 0 flag register is set when the result in the accumulator is equal to 0 in hexadecimal or binary, anything you say, but the result is 0. Okay, and it is reset when it is not so. The second is the parity flag register. So if the result in the accumulator or any other register that we have viewed for comparison has even number of ones in it, that is the parity is even, then this flag will be set, otherwise it will remain reset, or which is 0 state of it. The third we are going to discuss is the carry flag register. So if the result of an operation being performed generates an carry of 1, generates a carry of 1, we'll have the carry register set 1. Okay, next we'll discuss is the auxiliary carry. Now the auxiliary carry only comes in picture when we talk about the binary coded decimal operations, which is a BCD operations popularly known as. So we know that one byte has 8 bits and 4 bits is equal to 1 nibble and 1 byte equals to 2 nibble. So auxiliary carry is only in picture in nibble to nibble operation. So auxiliary carry is set when the operation, addition, subtraction, whatever it be, at the D3 position being shown in the picture, generates a carry transferred to D4. Then the auxiliary carry will set 1. Otherwise, it will remain reset. Now, the sign flag is decided by the most significant bit of the operation being performed. It is responsible, to give us information about the result is an unsigned number or a signed number. So we'll be taking up a problem and having a clear view of what these flag registers do. Okay, so we have to add, for example, BD and DD. So B in decimal is equal to 11 and D is equal to 13. Okay, so representing BD and DD in binary is shown in the screen, shown on the screen. So we'll perform addition. Now, I'll explain you the addition process. So 1 plus 1 would result in 0 and a carry of 1. So at D1, we'll have 0 plus carry of 1, which was generated by D0. We'll have 1 as a result. Next, we'll have 1 plus 1. The result will be 0 and a carry of 1. The next 1 plus 1 will give a result of 0 and carry 1 to the next position, which is D4. And we had 1 as a carry being generated from D2. We'll have 1 here. In the next, we'll have 1 plus 1. Okay, the carry of 1 and 0 as a result, and we'll add 1 because the carry had been generated by D3 right here, and we had that in our hand. So it will be result 1. Then 1 plus 1 would result in 0 and carry of 1. 1 plus 1 again would result in 0 and carry of 1. And next again 1 plus 1 would result in a carry of 1 and a result of 0. And we had 1 as a carry, so the result will be 1 as a carry, and the answer will be 1001 1010. So we have an overall carry of 1 being generated. Now, talking about the flags. So since the result in the accumulator is not equal to 0, hence the 0 flag would remain reset. Okay. Now, D3 as specified, and we saw that generated a carry of 1 which had been transferred to D4. So it was a nibble to nibble operation and a carry being generated. So now the auxiliary carry flag will remain set. Now, let us count the number of 1 in the answer, taking apart the sign, taking apart the carry we generated. So it is 1, 2, and 3, 4, 4 1. So we have even number of 1s. So we have a parity even, and the parity flag register would set to 1. Now the next is the sign flag register. So the we can see that the most significant bit is 1 in number, and hence the number is signed. So the sign flag sets as well. Okay. Now moving on to the program counter. So the program counter is actually responsible for the sequential execution of the program. So what it does, that it points to the next memory location to which the program has to be executed. Okay, not executed, the instruction to be executed. So it is a 16-bit it is a 16-bit register, and it holds a memory address which is equal to 16 bits, and it is a special purpose register. So the only thing to remember is the function of the program counter is nothing but to point to the memory address. I repeat, point to the memory address from which the next byte is to be fetched. Okay, so let us go to a problem and program I've written on GNU simulator so that we can get to know the purpose of the program counter. Okay, so I've written a program to add 2 numbers. Now first I'd like to mention that the default memory address at which the operation starts in the GNU simulator is 4200. The memory address is 4200H. Okay, so we'll be performing the first the step sequentially and see what is the result of the program counter and the registers seen. Now MVI is a 2-byte instruction. To be noted, MVI is 2-byte instruction. MOV is a 1-byte instruction. Add is also 1-byte instruction. Okay, so moving on. When we execute the first statement, which is MVI B07H, that is nothing but moving the data byte 07H to register B. The program counter was currently at 4200. Okay, it is showing 00 right here. That's a bug. But it should have been shown 4200, but it's a bug that it always shows 0000. When we execute the first statement, now the next statement to be executed is MVIC09H after execution of the first statement. Okay, so now the program counter must update to 4202 because MVI was a 2-byte instruction and the next instruction to be executed would be 2 bytes after 4200. So it should be 4202H. Okay, and B should be loaded with 07. And see, this is what it happens. Okay, so the program counter is updated subsequently at 4202 and the B register has a data of 07. Okay, now we execute the next statement. Similarly, MVIC and okay, so we see that B register is loaded with 07, C register is loaded with 09. The program counter is incremented to 4205. Like the next statement to be executed is 4205. Now why it is 4205 was just based on the calculation. MVIB was at 4200, MVIC was at 4202, MOV was at 4205. The next statement to be executed at 4205. Okay, and subsequently things happen and we see that when we reach to the statement number 5, its address is 4206 and the program will end. So this was the main execution or the main purpose of the program counter to maintain the sequential execution of the steps. Now next we move on to stack pointer. Okay, so just a formal definition. So a stack pointer is used as a memory pointer and it points to a memory location in read and write memory called as stack. Okay, the 16-bit register, okay, memory register. Now it is always incremented or decremented by 2 when the statements push and pop, which are associated with the stack pointer, we'll be discussing in the forward slide. So we'll get to know what the statements are. So the stack pointer address is always incremented or decremented by 2 when such statements are performed. Now, let us understand this by a regular example. So we have, for example, we have a stack of plates being kept. So what we notice as the last plate we kept on the stack is the first to be withdrawn when we need the plate for any purpose, like for eating or anything. So the last plate or the top plate kept at the last is the first to be withdrawn for any purpose. So the stack pointer or stack is based on the same thought as it is, the principle is last in, first out. Okay. So it actually, the main usage of stack pointer is when we have a subroutine being called in our main program and control shift to the subroutine. So the stack maintains the result of the program counter of the next statement to be executed when the subroutine returns back to the main. You know, the execution power comes back to the main program. Okay, so this is the main purpose of the stack pointer. Now let us discuss few of its, like how we declare it or how we initialize it and how we use it. So first statement is the LXI SP and we'll have a 16-bit memory address after it. Now LXI, as we know, is a 3-byte instruction and is used to load memory address with some data. Now LXI SP with a given memory address would initialize a stack pointer to the memory address being mentioned. Okay, being mentioned in the mnemonics being written. Now, once this location is defined, what we need to remember is this is the initial location of the stack pointer. Okay, and stack is always arranged from bottom to top, like it works from the bottom to top. with memory address being decreasing. Like if the stack is starting from, like for example, if I've initialized it at number 10, so my processing will always start from 9, then 8, then 7, then 6, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. Now, data bytes are always stored in register pairs BC, DE, and HL. Stack is a 16-bit register, so we'll always have two registers to be involved in it for, retrieving the data or pushing the data or anything like that. Now there are mainly mainly, or we can say there are only two instructions associated with stack. First is the push statement, and second is the pop statement. So coming down to push statement. So the push statement is a 1-byte instruction, and it is used for data storage in stack 16-bit at a time. Okay, 16-bit at a time. Now the data is stored in a decreasing order of memory address. Like for example, I've written here a code, so we'll be discussing that. But the main thing you need to remember is that the principle of push statement is decrement and then store. That is, decrement the address first. Stack pointer is pointing to some address. First, stack pointer is pointing to some address, I'll repeat. And then we'll first decrement the address, load the data. Decrement the address, load the data. Okay. So it's a program being written which is LXI SPFFH. Now what the first statement does is that it initializes the stack pointer at the address FFFH, okay, in the memory range. Now the second statement, which is MVI B20H, does nothing but moves the data by 20H into the register B, and MVI C DDH loads the register C with data DD. Now we do push P. So let's have a diagram and see how this actually works. So this is the data, on your left hand, you can see is the table of the memory address, the increasing memory address from top to bottom. And other we have the data that we'll have after, the statement of push P. Now when push P is performed, at first, what the stack pointer does is takes the data from B register, which is the most, from the B register, the MSB of the data, and stores it into the address, which is -1, the initialized address of the stack pointer. That is, first is decrements the address to which it was initialized. That is, it was initialized to FFFH. So it will first decrement the address to FFFE and then load the data 20H to it. Okay. And then it will, because it is a 16-bit data and it always performs operation on register pairs. So then it will take the data, the LSB, what we may call right here. It will take the DD data from the C register and copy to the next address, which is 1 minus the current stack pointer address. So this is what happens. So once again, for just a clear understanding, first we'll have the stack pointer being initialized and it be pointing to the address FFFF. When we perform all the operation of push P, moving data and all, now the stack pointer will point to this FFFG. Now, moving on to the pop statement. So the pop statement is actually also the same purpose, like not the same purpose, but it is actually a 1-byte data instruction, and it actually copies back or transfer the contents of the stack to the register pair being specified by the most significant bit register. Now, continuing from the previous example, we have pop D written as in here. So what pop D will do? Pop D represents a register pair which is DE. So it will be copying data of the stack to the register DE. Now let us see the manner how it does. So the topmost is the least significant bit, like we can call it the least significant bit, data byte. So in the register pair DE, what it will do, it will carry, it will copy the DD data to the register E, decrement, okay, copy and then decrement the address and then copy the data to D register. So this will be the state of the D and E register after the pop D statement has been performed. And the stack pointer would then be pointing back to FFF. Now this point is clear is that the stack pointer increments or decrements by a number of 2 when push and pop statements are performed on it. Now there's also instruction known as push PSW and pop PSW, like any other register pair. So what we need to know is what is this PSW register pair. So PSW stands for nothing but it is program status word. So it is actually the register pair of accumulator and the flag register. So the accumulator can be said as a more significant bit, and the flag register data will be the least significant bit data. Okay, so push PSW would first push the data of accumulator in the stack pointer, decrement the address, and then insert the flag register address. Now when we pop PSW, so first the data to which stack pointer is pointing would be first retrieved and being pushed back to the flag register, and the next data would be pushed back to accumulator. Okay, so now let's take up a problem and understand all of the function and arithmetics of the stack pointer. So what we are given here is the available memory ranges from 2000H to 23FFH. Now program of data transfer and arithmetic operation is stored in memory location 2000H to 2050H. Okay, and the stack pointer is initialized at 2400H. Now two sets of data are stored starting at locations 2050H and 2280H. Okay, so we are given 3 questions here and we'll answer them one by one and understand the problem in detail. Now the register HL and BC are used as memory pointers to the data location. Okay, HL and BC. Now first we have to explain how stack pointer can be initialized to such memory location. So let us answer this first. So now the thing to be noticed here, like that can be a point of confusion, that the available memory ranges up to 23FFH only, and the stack pointer is initialized to 2400H. So is it valid or not? So remember that we discussed that the address to which the stack pointer is initialized is not actually the address the data are started to being loaded. First it is decremented and then loaded. Okay, so the stack pointer being initialized to 2400H just means that we can insert the data from 23FF, the address just before 2400H, up to the top address to which the program is not written. Okay, so this ensures that the complete usage of the memory range is done here. Okay, so explain the exchange of memory pointers, explain various contents of user memory. Okay, so this is the actual representation of the problem, that we have the program being written and the stock contents are from 23FF to 23FF. Okay, so now let's move on to the execution of the push statement. Okay, okay. So the execution of the push statement. Now we have data being stored in HL pair and BC pair. Okay, so what the first push statement is? Push H. Okay, so push H, we can see that pushes the content of the H and L register into the stack, and it will require 2 bytes. Okay, so the address would be decremented by 2. then the push P statement similarly, then the push PSW statement similarly. Remember, first the data being pushed is of the most significant bit data. In the HL pair, it will be H. In the BC pair, the first data to be pushed is B. In push PSW, the first data to be pushed is accumulators data. And then subsequently the L, the C, and the flag register, but that will be sequentially, like H, that H data has been pushed, then L data has been pushed, the data of B, and data of C, then data of accumulator, and the data of the flag register. Okay, so now let's move on when we perform operations such as pop PSW, pop H, and pop D. So when we enter data like push, it was written push H, push P, and push PSW. So data was inserted in the order of H, L, B, C, accumulator data, and flag register data. So when pop PSW is performed, the first data retrieved will be of the least significant bit. Okay, as we have mentioned. So in pop PSW, the first data retrieved will be the data of the data on the top retrieved and would be pushed back to the flag register, then the accumulator. Similarly, for push H, the data being retrieved would be first pushed back to L, then H. And then for pop D, we'll have data being pushed first to C register and then to P. Okay, and in the stack pointer will return back to the position to which it was initialized, which is 2400H. So this was all about the stack pointers and the flag registers and the accumulator and the register. That is the programming model of the 8085. So thank you.